Hey there, it's Seb Frey here with another exciting episode of It's a Seb Show. And today I want to talk about that oh so frequent question that I get all the time, which is how much will my Bay Area home appraise for? Now that question gets asked a lot, especially nowadays when homes are selling way over asking price, and it happens all the time. People are wondering, hey, listen, if I take this offer for this much money, is there even any hope that it will appraise? Or from buyers, I get this a lot, like, hey, Seb, if I offer like X, could it possibly even appraise for that? Like, what happens if I have to like waive my appraisal contingency and like I know it's maybe not going to appraise for that kind of amount, and like what happens? So people are taking a much closer look at appraised values now more than ever. And so let me help you understand how the appraisal process works. The appraiser is not going in blind to your property. If the appraiser were going blind to a property, and let's just say the property is not like a cookie cutter home in a tract where they're all more or less the same. If an appraiser is looking at a somewhat unique property and you had 5 appraisers submit a report on that same property, they would all come up with 5 different values, and they may be 5 wildly different values, even though they're all trying to get the same information, which is what's the market price for this home. And that's because at the end of the day, if you actually read an appraisal report, what it says there is that this is the appraiser's opinion of value. An appraisal is just an opinion. Now, it may be a studied opinion, it may be a considered opinion, it may be a professional opinion. In fact, it probably is all of those things, because in order to get an appraisal license, it's actually pretty hard to do it. But at the end of the day, it still is nothing more than that, just one man's opinion, which is why it's so interesting that like if you get like a termite report or like a home inspection on your house, you have to disclose that to any potential buyer. But if you get an appraisal on your house prior to selling it, or at any point really, you don't have to provide that to a buyer, because it's not a material fact, because all it is an opinion. So that's all an appraisal is. It's just one person's opinion of the value of a property. So now when an appraiser is going to go to appraise a property for, like a resale transaction, guess what? The appraiser actually has a copy of the purchase agreement. That's right. They know the sale price of the home. They know any closing cost credits. They know any, repairs that have been agreed to, right? I mean, they know if you're buying the solar panels, if there have solar panels on there. So an appraiser knows all the terms and conditions of your contracts before he even goes out to look at the property. Now, why is this important? Because this speaks to the appraiser's mission. The appraiser's mission is not to tell you what fair market value for the property is, even though in the appraisal report it does say, in my opinion, the fair market value is X, right? What he's really trying to do is he's really trying to support the sale price. That's right. He's trying to come in with a value that is going to work. The appraiser is not going in there, probably, with the idea of blowing up the transaction. They don't want to do that. Appraisers are just regular, ordinary people. No one wants to be the bad guy. Well, not most people anyway. So the appraiser is going to go in there and it's going to try to support the contract price based on the comparable sales data that he's able to determine. So when you get your appraisal back, or when the buyer gets the appraisal back, because the seller is not normally entitled to a copy of the appraisal report. But so when the appraisal report comes back, it's amazing how often the appraisal comes in right exactly at contract price. Exactly, like to the dollar. It's amazing how often that happens. Or if it doesn't happen at exactly the contract price, then maybe $1,000 higher or $10,000 higher. But it's not generally $50,000 or $100,000 higher than contract price. And why is that, right? I mean, like an appraiser could come in maybe at a higher price in a lot of cases. But why doesn't the appraiser come in at a higher price? And the answer is because the appraiser doesn't need to. The appraiser's job is just to support the sale price in the contract. He looks at the comparable data and says, based on the comps that I see, here's what I think a fair market value of this property is. Now, actually, the appraiser can get into trouble if they come in at a much higher valuation than the contract price, because then the underwriter is going to ask, hey, what don't I know here? What am I missing? Why is the buyer getting such a great deal on this property? So maybe there's some problem with the property that I don't know about. Like maybe there's some hidden defect in the property that maybe the appraiser doesn't know about, which is affecting the market price. But if I have to like foreclose on the property, I'll be stuck with who knows what, a defunct nuclear reactor in the basement of the house or something. Or two, the appraiser did a bad job. The appraiser did not actually choose the accurate comps for the property, which show what the fair value of that property is. So if either of those things are true, then the appraiser is going to have to go back and probably, argue with the underwriter, argue with the appraisal management company and say, no, listen, like I did the best I can, like, and here's the reason why I had to appraise it 150,000 or 200 or whatever it is over the contract price. An appraiser doesn't want to have to do that, right? Appraisers are turn and burn, right? They're busy. They don't want to sit there spending like 2 hours or 3 hours like defending their appraised value, right? So they're going to always want to come in just where they think it's going to get the deal done, right? And there's not going to be any problem with the AMC or the underwriter, right? So that's why you will see almost always, as if by magic, the appraisal comes in right at contract price or just a little tiny bit over contract price. Now, of course, once in a while, it will come in below contract price. So I've been doing this now for 18 years and I've closed, 400 homes or so, something like that. And how often have I seen a low appraisal? I don't know. I'm going to say 6, 7, 8, something like that. It doesn't happen very often to me. Now, I'm sure that there are some agents where it's routine because they deal in rare properties where it's really actually hard to come up with a clear indication of market value based on the comps. I mean, I'm sure that there are cases where that's pretty routine for some types of properties and some types of agents. But I deal with a fairly varied housing stock, I would say. And unless I'm there are cases where I know for sure it's not going to appraise, right? I mean, where the buyer knows it, the seller knows it, everybody knows it. But there's many cases where the buyer has enough money for a down payment. They don't care about a blown appraisal, right? It doesn't really matter what it appraises for, so long as the lender sees that the buyer has that debt to equity ratio, right? If you're getting a loan, they want to see that you have at least 20% equity. And if you blow the appraisal, but you're putting 30 or 40 or 50% down, it doesn't matter for the purposes of getting a loan, just so long as you actually have enough down payment, over that 20% equity margin that the lender is looking to have, the deal is not going to fall apart. So yeah, while that can happen quite a bit, especially in these, more expensive Silicon Valley type neighborhoods, San Francisco neighborhoods, where the home prices are just so far over the comps, it can happen quite a bit. Yeah, it will come in short. But again, it doesn't matter most of the time if the buyer, has waived that appraisal contingency and has the cash to make up any potential shortfall. All right. Well, I hope that this has been very, educational for you about, what is your Bay Area home likely to appraise for. Just please understand the appraiser is not trying to blow apart your deal. They're trying to bring in the value if in any way, shape, or form, the comparable sales data allow them to. All right. Well, listen, if you have any questions about appraisals, I'm not an appraiser, but I've seen quite a few appraisal reports. I would love it if you would just reach out to me, maybe give me a comment right here and ask, any appraisal questions, and I'll be happy to share with you what I know. And if you would share this video with other people that who are, wondering, hey, what's my home going to appraise for? They might enjoy watching this too. And I would love a like, a thumbs up. That would be absolutely terrific. And also, it would be super killer if you went ding, if you just hit subscribe to my YouTube channel. I would really appreciate that as well. All right, well, that wraps up this episode of It's a Seb Show. I thank you so much for watching, but don't worry. Hey, it's okay. I'll have another episode up again before too long.